I'm kind of worried that the music is a little too loud.
Too
at
banging?
times. Yeah, not right now, but
Yeah.
Chris Baio, welcome to Belgium,
Thank you.
and thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Of course.
So you being here is sort of the result of sort of a hobby that got out of control a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's exactly what's led to us being together today.
Yeah.
I always loved DJing, and then found that I really wanted to get into production, and then found I really wanted to make an album, and now I'm here.
Yeah, cool. Because the first EP that you put out as a solo artist, Sunburn, that really sounded like you just having fun with some tracks and DJing away and whatever. But like your new album, The Names, sounds more serious, I feel. Like,
Yeah, I think so.
it's less fiddling around with DJ equipment and more like there are proper songs on there.
Yeah, I wanted to make a record that was like a combination of tracks and songs. So I always, with Sunburn, yeah, I really was just trying to make like tracks that I could play out in DJ sets and things like that. I think it's pretty natural when you play out, and let's say there's two songs you love, but you imagine there'll be a song that goes in between those two songs, but it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
That's why I think a lot of DJs then become producers. So that was how that all started. But you know, through all that, I was still having ideas for songs, and I still wanted to be a songwriter. And kind of this album is now me being a songwriter for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah. I get the impression that you're very interested in language and words and lyrics. Like, for instance, The Names itself is named after a Don DeLillo novel.
Yeah.
And you studied Russian literature, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And for some reason, from other interviews that I've read with you, I get the impression that you have a thing with the word neat.
Neat?
Yeah, neat.
Neat.
Like, a lot of the stuff that you like is neat.
I find it neat.
Yeah.
I do. I like that word.
Yeah.
Like,
In what way?
if you find something neat, what is that really saying? I don't know. What do you think? How do you feel about the word neat?
I don't know. I would say it's kind of like a less cool way of saying something's cool.
Yeah, I think there's that, and it's also maybe a concise way of saying something's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah. But it fits really well with the, I guess maybe the little kind of brainy image that you guys have as Vampire Weekend, and that you maybe have as well as a solo artist. Although your music isn't brainy at all, I think.
Okay. I definitely think a lot about everything with this record. I mean, like the album artwork, the cover art, the font. I learned very rudimentary Photoshop skills with the album cover.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you take the photo?
No,
okay.
It's my favorite photographer, a guy named Matthias Heiderich, who's a German photographer. Like, I was always a fan of his work, and a lot of it, he's based in Hamburg, and a lot of the photos are Hamburg and Berlin, which, well, you can see outside it's kind of a gray day. Also, my experience in those cities is that they're pretty gray, but his photography is so colorful, and you can't quite tell if it's a photo or like a painting or graphic design.
Yeah.
And I really am a big fan of his work, so I have a couple of his prints in like my home studio, and I try and think like, what would a track sound like that's like this photograph? What's the music equivalent of this photograph? I will say though that the ultimate goal for a lot of the music is to get people to move, and it's body music, I guess you could say. So I think that that's kind of maybe ultimately the most important thing.
Yeah. It's music you can dance to, but it's also music you can read to, or that was the goal, right?
That's the goal with the instrumental tracks. I don't know. I always, with like my first EP, that was definitely something I was thinking about, like music you can read to and dance to. I think that with vocals, I don't know. As for me, anything with English language vocals, I like want to know. Hear the words, and it's very hard to concentrate on like a book or something, or reading something while doing that.
Yeah, makes sense.
But like a foreign music or instrumental music you can kind of read to. I don't know. The record's like half instrumental, half vocal.
Yeah.
So maybe it's half music you can read to.
Okay. So it wasn't really the idea to integrate these two functions of music, let's say.
I think that, I mean, that was definitely, it was like I wanted it to be like tracks and pop songs. I wanted it to be, if you went like 5 minutes forward at any point in the record, it would kind of make no sense, right? If you just skipped 5 minutes, you're like, why is this the same record? But then if you listen to that 5 minutes develop, it made complete sense. So the idea of having like a techno intro to a song and then exploding that and then having it break down to just guitar and vocal like a folk song. That's just the song on the record called I Was Born in a Marathon. Yeah. It's this kind of like weird journey that if you just skipped immediately from the techno to the end of the song, you'd be like, how the fuck did we get there? Right. But ideally, when you listen to the 4.5 minutes of it, it doesn't actually seem insane.
Right. For some reason that, like, not really the sound of it, but like the structure of that track, like the way you can conceptualize it, and the way you just explained it, sort of reminds me of an artist called East India Youth. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I've listened to his record. Yeah, this record was on XL. I think it's really cool. I listened to it a few times, and there are...
it's more folky than your stuff, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different, but I can see that connection. Yeah. For a long time, people have been now, like, combining, like, dance and rock, and there's been... People talk a lot about, like, dance punk in New York maybe 10 years ago. And for my record, I wanted to go, like, instead of just straight up melding the two, kind of go in further directions with each. So just have, like, a straight up techno song and have just a straight up rock song or a pop rock song, but to have them work in the context of a whole record. That was kind of the way I was thinking about it when I was working on it.
Yeah. David Bowie and Brian Ferry were pretty big influences for this record, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how did that happen? Did you like rediscover them, or?
Well, no, I would say the Bowie, the like kind of Berlin era records and like Station to Station, which was before that, those would have been records I came to when I was like 19 or 20, and those are probably some of my favorite of all time because there's this balance of instrumental music and pop songs. Like there's some incredibly cool short pop songs at the front end of Low, and then it gets in this weird, like, you know, spacey ambient second half, and that was very much like something I've always loved. Those are kind of my favorite records. Roxy music I came around to a little bit later, probably in my mid-20s, like 5 or 6 years ago, and yeah, for me, the two of them, the two being David Bowie and Brian Ferry, have written more songs that I've loved than any other songwriters in the history of songwriting. So it kind of, I think that sometimes people can be afraid of like directly referencing their influences, or some artists can be coy about it, and that's cool. But for me, I'd rather just like straight up own it. You know, that's kind of what I'm going for. Is okay, there's an incredible Roxy Music song called Mother of Pearl. I'm not gonna like pretend like it's not one of my favorite songs of all time. So I'll write a song called Sister of Pearl.
Right, cool. And what you like about Low, the Bowie record, is in essence what you're trying to do with your own record as well, like uniting this instrumental approach with like the more poppy, like pop song vibe.
Yeah, definitely.